Now, I know about this because of a man in Fingal who wears a replica Apollo 11 spacesuit to serve coffee, who had a lot to talk about when a 13-year-old Tasmanian kid came up and told him about winning a scholarship to go to Space Camp USA. Angus Mann is that teenager, Space Camp scholarship winner. Hello, Angus.
Hello, Helen.
How did you start getting interested in space?
It's like I've just had the interest for pretty much my whole life. I remember doing this unit in grade 2 or grade 1 in 2019 about the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, and I seemed to quite like it even then.
Wow, as young as grade 2?
Or 1, I think. It was 2019. So,
yeah. And how did you end up with the telescope?
Well, my granddad built it himself in 1970, and then they came down this February for my sister's birthday, and then he gave it to me as a little gift. And I get it out every few weeks, every 2 weeks, I think.
What do you like to look at?
Right now, the moon, that's pretty much all there really... Oh, and deep space, but that's pretty much all there really is to see around this time of year. But I'm hoping to see a lot of stuff later in the year when they're visible, because the rise and set times of the planets change. So you can't really see Jupiter nowadays because it's too close to the sun.
But can you... Yeah. What can you see of it at the right time of year, of Jupiter?
You can see, like, its kind of surface details if you have the really powerful lens in.
Wow.
You can also see its moons, but that's pretty much with any standard telescope. And you can kind of see the Great Red Spot if you look closely.
Have you and your granddad had the chance to talk about sharing this love of space?
Yeah, a lot of times actually. We go up like twice a year, and they usually come down about once a year, so a lot of the time actually.
He must love that you came along and were just so excited about space the same way he is.
Yeah, probably.
Excellent. This is Angus Mann, who is a Space Camp USA scholarship winner on evenings on 936 ABC Radio Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. Does your bedroom look like a spaceflight museum?
Yes, it does. I have the telescope against one wall, and I also have a smaller set of binoculars, a tripod. I also have my bed sheets. My doona has like pictures of planets and astronauts on it.
Yeah.
And I have like model rovers and space shuttles and stuff.
What's one of your best space shuttles?
Just the Discovery thing.
Right.
If you look at the video I sent in to the Space Camp people, you can see how my room looks like a museum space.
Right. Is there one flight in spaceflight history you think about more than others?
Probably the Apollo missions. I guess Apollo 11 is like the really famous one, but I think each of them were equally ambitious. But I guess the Apollo missions probably, but not like any specific spaceflight.
Yep, fair enough. Let me ask about some of what you're going to get up to at Space Camp USA. What happens when you're on Space Camp?
It's really cool. They put you in these like simulations for astronaut training. So they have like these. They build like pretend space capsules, and with like the switches and stuff, but the switches don't actually do anything, but you can still flick them up and down, and you get to sit in the spacecraft and flick them up and down and turn the dials and stuff. They also have this really cool, I think it's like one of the largest swimming pools in the world, but they put you in like these special scuba suits, and they lower you into the water, and you go scuba diving, and it simulates what it's like for astronauts on a spacewalk in zero G. And they have like this kind of structure that's like an old satellite or something, and we pretend like we're doing a servicing mission on it. and we get tools and stuff.
So you're going to feel what it's like to bounce across the surface of the moon.
Probably. I think it's more like a 0G thing, not a low G thing.
Okay, noted. That's an important difference. What about gardening and growing things? Is that part of it?
Yeah, we do plant seeds that are flown in 0G environments with kids from schools in America. That's pretty cool.
Right,
too.
you'll plant seeds which have been to space.
Yeah.
Man, this is good. And will you meet people who work for NASA and other space agencies?
Yeah. Actually, I think the first night we are there, or maybe the second. But the second night we're there, we have dinner at this restaurant, fast food restaurant in America, with engineers from JPL and NASA and Rocket Lab and stuff.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So I imagine you already have, well, no, I won't assume. Do you want to work in the space industry?
Yes.
What would be your dream gig?
Mission specialist on one of the Artemis missions to Mars.
Wow.
Yeah.
On a Mars mission. There's talk about them being one way, though.
No, they'd return, but it would be a 3-year return trip, because you'd fly to Mars. That would take 8 months, and then you'd have to stay on Mars for a year until the next transfer window, until Mars and Earth are next closest again, and you can launch back with less fuel. So all around it takes 3 years, but there is the permanent thing is often quite a misconception. It's the term permanent doesn't mean that astronauts will be living on Mars permanently. It means that there will be a permanent structure in which astronauts will live, like the ISS or the space station above Earth. There's always someone on it since November of 2002 or something, but no one's on it for the rest of their life.
No,
rotate.
This is Angus Mann, who has won a scholarship, one of only 4 in the country, to go to Space Camp USA on evenings on 936 ABC Radio, Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. I'm Helen Shield. What did you have to do to win a scholarship to Space Camp?
I had to record this video explaining why I should be selected for the scholarship, as well, and I also had to get this recommendation letter from a respected member of my local community. I chose my science teacher from last year, and I also had to get an approval letter from my parents.
Right, yeah, that would be important. It'd be a hell of a surprise, wouldn't it, if you hadn't told them you were applying. Oh, guys, guess what? So those plans you had for me in the school holidays in October, let's change them. I'm busy. One of only 4 people. How does that feel?
Feels pretty good. Although it's not just going to be 4 people. There were 26 people, I think, in total. And then there were 29 because there are tour guides. But the other 22 kids didn't win the scholarship. They paid for it.
Yeah. And good on them for that. So what is one particular thing you're looking forward to about this trip?
Probably getting to see what it's like to be a real astronaut. Preparing.
Yeah. Right, preparing for when you're the real astronaut.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is Angus Mann, who has won a scholarship to Space Camp. Let me bring in, who I believe may have been involved in that decision. Jenna McCarthy is the Education Outreach Manager at One Giant Leap Australia. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, it's great to be on the air. And Angus, I just want to say congratulations again. It's just hearing you talk about how excited you are. It just makes my heart swell, because it's so great to hear passionate students that are so interested in the space industry, not only in Australia, but not only in America, but also in Australia, and think about careers of the future. And it's, again, congratulations. It's going to be a great trip. You're in for a treat.
Right.
Thank you.
How good are you feeling about the decision to pick Angus right now?
Well, I was having another look through his video actually a few minutes ago, and it reminded me that the whole time in that selection process, we kept referring to Angus as the student with the Occupy Pluto shirt. We were like, oh, the student who's wearing Occupy Pluto. We're like, okay, because, we're going through a lot of applications. There would be, like people have the same name and things like that. So we'd always try and find like an, identifying element in the video. So we're like, oh, the Occupy Pluto student. And, like things like, some people can set up things in the background or, set up things that are very like extravagant and whatnot. But there's some things where you can really tell a student room looks really into space rather than they've just kind of set it up for the video. And I was like, you can't just get, this giant telescope in your room for, like a 2-minute video. It kind of has to permanently live there, And the fact that, the interest in space is not only with, what's happening now, so like with the Artemis missions and SpaceX and things like that, but also reflecting in older space history. So the fact that this telescope was made in 1970 is like, oh, and he's using it and he's thinking about past missions as well as the future. It was very thoughtful, and it was something that was kind of considered during the selection process. Do
you get to go on the trip to space camp? Are you one of the accompanying adults, Jenna?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So I went, so I'm very excited. And that's why, I was part of the selection process because I would be, helping chaperone the students through not only their time during space camp, but also the few days before in LA. The students last year were fantastic, and it just makes me so excited to kind of go for another trip because there's things that happen that they're on the trip and they're in the schedule, but the way you think they're going to be and the way they are, it's unimaginable. Like there's, you can look up a lot of things about space camp and what it's like and whatnot, but it's also being there, being in that experience is just life-changing.
Jenna, is your story like Angus's, where almost as far back as you can remember, you loved space?
Well, I was very much into science fiction, so when I saw the Star Trek stuff in the background, I think Angus, he had like a poster or something with Star Trek. I was like, yes, excellent, live long and prosper.
I have a shirt with that slogan too.
Oh, excellent, yeah. And, massive Doctor Who fan, my dad introduced it to me, and that kind of made me, think, beyond what we know with Earth, and sometimes I get really overwhelmed. I'm just such a tiny, tiny speck, like one life, one little small person in the grand scheme of the billions of people on this earth. And then you look further and, how big space is. And then, you're going past the Milky Way and just the vastness of everything. And you're like, I'm that little tiny speck. But, it took teams of people to get, there was 700,000 people that got, first man on the moon. And then, all the people that are working in the space industry now, not only, again, in the US, you've got people in Europe that are working on satellites, people in China, people across the world that are making a difference in space. And so we are doing some incredible things, even though we are just little, tiny specks of cosmic dust, I guess.
Well, I'm happy that our specks of cosmic dust could all converge this evening. Thank you. Jenna McCarthy is the Education Outreach Manager with One Giant Leap Australia. Angus Mann is one of the scholarship winners from them for this year's Space Camp USA. And Angus, just to tie it all together, there's somebody who's won an award today for his services to aviation, who'll be on a little later tonight, who has flown William Shatner, Captain Kirk, to Lake Pedder in Tasmania before. So cool. It'll all just keep going around in cosmic dust circles this evening. Congratulations again, and I hope we can talk once you come back.
Yeah, me too.
Angus Mann, Space Camp Scholarship winner on evenings on 936 ABC Radio Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania.
Let's talk about it.
Join in the conversation anytime.
Good morning, Leon.
Good morning, Leon.
Good morning.
With Leon Compton.
You can get in touch too.
Leon Compton.
As big as it gets.
Weekday mornings from 8:30 on 936 ABC Radio Hobart.